Hello everybody. So today I want to use some glitter and I want to make something similar. Do you remember that red plaid and we had that gold piece on the front? I want to do that but in silver, because just a couple weeks ago I was wearing a black tank top and I was like, this would look really cute with a big silver, not big, but a silver pendant on my shirt, you know. So I'm going to make one with silver glitter. And I think what I'm going to use for my base, so on that one that we did with the plaid, the black piece, it was a 3-part pendant. And then the gold piece, I used gold clay. I don't think it really matters what color clay you use, because we're going to cover most of it up. But you do want to use something that won't, like, you don't want to use like orange if you're doing silver, or green if you're doing silver. So I have this leftover translucent and white from that flower that we made not that long ago. So I'm going to use this. It's mainly translucent, but a little bit of white in there. I'm going to mix this up and use this as my base. Honestly, I'll probably only need this. And I'm going to use that. But again, if you have a bunch of the silver glitter or gold glitter or whatever colors you're going to do, use that. So let me mix this up and I'll come back and I'll pick out a cutter as well. And yeah, we'll start with that. I'm going to actually make 2 of these. So pretty much I picked out my cutters. Now I only have 2 of these ones by, I don't even know how to say, Ludmila. I don't even know how to say her name, but she's on YouTube too. A lot of her tutorials you have to pay for the full length ones. I only have 2 sets of her cutters, and they're really dinky. Like, these are really small, which would probably work well for a long earring, but I mean, they're like really small, and I don't know what set I bought, but this biggest one is only, I guess from the longest point, you know, you're talking about 2 inches by under an inch, 3/4 of an inch by maybe 2 at the longest point. But then these ones get really small. This one is like 1.5 inches, you know, by like 1/4 of an inch. So those are really small, so I don't use them often, but I think this will work well for this particular piece because I don't want these to be huge. And then I also have these basic clay cutters. I either got these on Amazon or Etsy, just basic clay cutters. And I ordered them a long time ago, probably on Amazon. I don't know where the link is or whatever. So just, you know, if you're wondering about cutters, most of my plastic either come from Metal Clay Studio on Etsy or Ojoy Creations. And my metal cutters, literally, those were like the first cutters I bought when I first started. I did not keep links. I wasn't making videos, and I have no clue where I bought some of them. Sometimes I bought them at the art store. I have no clue. Just look up basic metal clay cutters. I know everybody wants me to post links, but I don't get paid for this full time. So to go, when you want a link for something, to go search back through 2 years worth of my orders on Amazon and Etsy to find it and then copy and paste it, it's a pain in the ass when I'm at work and like you guys are like, hey, could you have that link? No, I don't have the link. Just search, you know, egg-shaped clay cutter, egg-shaped cookie cutter, you know, or search metal clay cutters, metal cookie cutters, you know, and look through. That's how I found them. So anyways, this is the translucent white mix that I have. You know, if I had a bunch of silver clay, I'd probably use silver, but I think this will work for both color options that I'm going to do. It has mostly Cernet translucent and then a little bit of white, which again, most of this is going to be covered up. So I'm going to cut out our shapes and we're going to bake our shapes right now with nothing on them for about 30 minutes just to get them set up at whatever your clay's temperature recommends. Just like that. So we're going to bake these. I'm not worried about cleaning up any of my edges. I will do that later. And then when they're baked for 30 minutes, I'll come back and I'll show you what we're going to do for the next step. I'm going to do this pretty much the same exact way I did it on that plaid. It had a plaid piece, a black piece, and a gold piece. So I'm pretty much going to do it the same way as that. So they're out of the oven. I baked them for just a half hour, so they're not 100% baked, but they're fairly well. And I need to trim up these edges, so I would do that however you normally do that. I do that with my Dremel and my orange wheel. So I'm going to bring you, again, I'll bring you over my lap because this is how I normally do it. And trim these up quickly with just a little more pressure. You could use sandpaper. Sometimes you can just flick it off with your fingernail or your craft knife. I don't like to pick it up while it's raw because I don't want to mess up my shape then. And because this one was a metal cutter, you have this little, where the seam is, so I tend to just try to flatten that out a little bit, but you won't notice it much when we're done. And same with this one. This is that plastic cutter. Plastic cutters, you always get some. Okay. I'm so excited. My sister-in-law is having a baby. I just got a text. She's 3 days early, but she started retaining a lot of water and her blood pressure was really high. So they induced her yesterday at like 3:30, and she's about ready to push. And so they induced her at Tuesday at like 3:30, and it's Wednesday at 1. So she's about ready to push. She's about 9 centimeters dilated. So woo-woo, excited. Gonna have I already have 4, 5, 6 niece or nephew. It's a niece, it's a girl. So I'm excited. Anyways, so this is the one I'm trying to mimic here, but in silver, and I'm also gonna do it in blue. So we'll start off with silver, and I have a couple of different glass glitters here. I have this one here from Stampendous. I did put this on my Amazon Ambassador. It's kind of a dull silver, but it is glass glitter. So it should, if I can get it open, it should bake totally fine because they're like shards of metalish almost. Okay, so I have that one I'm going to use. I also have this ice resin, and that's very similar to what I used on here, except for I had the gold. I'm going to open that up. I'm doing it over a container so I don't, oh, it still has plastic on it. Get it all over. And I do have just a paper towel laid out. So here's those ones, and I'll put some of those on the cover. I do have these waxed pencils that make it easy to pick up like gemstones and stuff, I guess. Let me put some out on the cover of both. Actually, this is shinier than I thought it was, this Stampendous one. In the container it looked dull, but now it doesn't. And then I also have, so here's the wax pencil that just, if you see, it helps picks up, they're meant to help pick up gems and stuff. And then I also have some of this tinsel glitter. Now this is in a set from Doris that I must have gotten on Amazon. And it's like long strands of glitter, which might look cool. So it's a Doris 13-piece set. I'm not sure if that's on my Amazon Ambassador or not. What's nice, if you guys buy off my Amazon Ambassador, is I get a small percent, like 2% or something very small, that helps me buy stuff for future projects, so that's always helpful. I also have some of this Wow glitter that I'm going to use as silver. Again, this is on my Amazon Ambassador, I know, because I used that gold one around Christmas time. And then I'm trying to get as many silvers as I can. I also have these twinklets. Now these twinklets are glass glitter, but they're white, but they're really, really shiny. So I may put some of these on as well. And then I'm going to do a blue one. So I have the Doris, 2 different color Doris ones. And then I also have sky blue in the ice resin glass glitter. And I probably will use the twinklets on this too. So I'm going to do 2 of these. Okay. So the way I did it before, and I need a tile that's not hot. Do I have another tile sitting around? No. Right here. Hang on, let me clean that off with one of my blades I don't use often. So I have a piece of scrap or old or used deli paper that I'm going to use to set these on. And then what one am I going to make silver? I think I'm going to make this one blue. Maybe I'll make this one silver. So what I plan on doing is, when I first did it the first time, the first layer I did is in the Sculpey Bake and Bond because it's a little thicker. This one you bake at 275 for 30 minutes. And then I use the poly clay, the clear, and this one you bake at 300 to 350. So I think I baked it at 280 because this one's 275 and this one's 300. So I think I baked it at 280 plus the clay is 275. So I'm going to start with the Bake and Bond. It's thicker, and I just want a thin layer here. I'm going to use just like either a toothpick, or I have these little silicone brushes. I'm going to spread a layer out, just a very, you know, kind of thin. Actually, where's my other one? I have a different one of these, a flatter one. Do I have it out? Nope, I don't, so I guess I got to use this one. I have one that's a flat shape. And I've tried to find these on my Amazon. I'm not sure if I got these on Amazon. Now you could probably do this, put some on raw clay. You could also probably build this up with resin. You know, there's many ways to go about things. There's not only one way. So, but this is the way I've done it before and it works, so I'm going to do it this way again. So just enough to make it sticky. Now I also do have these silver ones, but when I baked it the other day, they kind of curled. These are for nail art, so I might use these as well, but they did curl up a little bit, so I might only use these in like the first layer. So let's put a couple of these on. I want everything to lay as flat as possible. And I want to try to keep it away from the edge. Not away from the edge, but I want to keep it to where the edge stays smooth. So just kind of spread everything out. And we're going to build this in layers, you know, and then bake it for a few minutes, and then just to stiffen it up, and then I hate glitter, which is why I have a napkin all the way laid down, because it gets all over everything. I mean, I love the way glitter looks. I just hate messing with glitter. Put a couple up here too. These might give a nice 3D effect when they kind of bubble up. We'll see if they bubble or if they curl a little bit if they're stuck down with something. Because literally I just tested it in my oven flat, just on a piece of paper. They weren't stuck down to anything. So there's that. And then I also want to get a nice coverage of the white to cover it up. So that's when I use the smaller glitters. And then when we do the next layer, we'll bulk it up with the bigger, shinier ones. So I'm going to use some of this tinsel glitter. I don't think I've used it before. So I think I have the plastic. See, they have little holes, which makes it handy. But you have to take off this film, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to get that out of there. Let me see if I can just, because there's some all over the outside, tap some of this off. So let me tap the cap off so I don't get it all over myself. Throw that right in the trash. And this is what I'm talking about. With these finer glitters, you can cover up the colored clay or the white clay. But I thought white would be fine over silver, that, you know, with the white, I should be able to, you should make the silver look brighter. And then I have the wow. which again I have not used. So. With these fine things, make sure you close them right back up. See how I'm going to cover the whole piece with this, pretty much. And I'll take some tweezers, pick this up, and kind of tap off whatever's not stuck. Everything we want stuck. That worked. Not. So far that's looking cool. And glitter looks so much better in real life. I do think I want to put some more Bacon Bond. And then once I get this first layer down, what I'll do is I'll bake this to get that all stuck so it stops moving. And then we'll add the chunkier stuff afterwards. I'm just adding some more Bacon Bond. You can tell where you missed with your Bacon Bond. And then after this first layer, I'll use the clear liquid clay because it does bake more clear. But again, you could do a thin layer of resin and stick the glitter into a thin layer of resin and build it up that way, if you're more comfortable with that. So now you really can't see most of the white. You know, most of the white is covered up. Maybe a tiny little spot right there. Other than the sides are white, you know. So if you wanted to use silver... Oh, I'm getting glitter all over everything. If you want to use silver-based clay, go for it. I'm just transferring it back and forth. It might have been easier if I had two pieces of parchment. Okay, so there's my silver one. We're going to bake that just for a few minutes. You know, maybe 20 minutes or so just to get it set up. So let me put that one on my tile, and then I'll keep this one separate for my silver, and then I'll get my blue one out, and we'll do the same thing for the blue one. This is just used parchment that I've used for other things. Rather than chuck it, I might as well use it. Okay, my other one's right here. Might get a little silver in it, but that's okay. Let me move some of my silvers, and again, I'm going to do a thin layer with just these two. Okay, so now my base is fully done and covered, right? And so now we're going to bake it, like I said, about 275, because I've only used the Bake and Bond. 275 for maybe 20 minutes or so, just to get this all stuck. And then we'll add a different layer on top. Oop, I got a piece of blue in that. Do you see it? We'll add another layer on top of the chunkier stuff that I have. It's right there. And I did pat the edges to make sure it's all on the edge. With this stuff, you don't have to worry about as much if it's flat, because this is such fine glitter. And then, so that will give us a nice base, and then we'll start building up the chunkier, more reflective pieces on top of that. Okay, so 275 for about 20 minutes, or whatever clay you're using, or Bake and Bond, or liquid clay, or whatever you're using. That's what temperature you'd want to do. So here we go. They're both out of the oven, and I'm just going to get a crappy old paintbrush here, if I can find one, and just try to brush off anything that's not stuck. This is not a good one here. So let's try to brush off anything that's not stuck and see what comes off. Not too much, that's good. Because I want everything really adhered down onto the base. Same thing, where's my blue? Right here. I don't care if the blue gets silver on it, I just don't want the silver to get blue on it. Yeah, not much really coming off there, so that's good. So we got our base colors done, and now all we're going to be doing is bulking this up or making it look however you want it to look. So actually I'm going to start with my silver. And again, I have my all my silvers out, my Stampendous, my iced resin ones, and then also my twinklets. And actually, let's look at these square pieces. Because they were stuck in the liquid clay, they didn't actually bubble up very much. When they were just flat on the parchment, they actually curled like this. The other two things I want to say is that this is on a setting 2. I didn't do a 0 because once I add all the glitter and then the resin, enough resin to make it flat, it will be thick enough. Like, look at this piece that I had to do back then. Look how thick that is. So that's why, and that was probably on a thinner, the base clay probably was on a thinner setting than this. So you could probably go to a setting 3 maybe on your pasta machine for your base clay. It doesn't have to be that thick. So there's that. And this time I'm going to use the clear poly clay because it's a little more clear. Not that I can really see any of it. You can see the Bake and Bond a little bit there, that it's a little dull, but I'm going to use the Kato. So the same kind of way, I'm going to put some on, spread it out, and then just apply the bigger chunked resin or glitter to it. You know, and again, the twinklets, the glass diamond dust resin, isn't colored, but it adds this really beautiful shimmer that I think will go well with all of this. So let's take my silicone brush and again just spread this out until it's covering everything. And you can do this as many or as few times as you want. You know, the finer glitters I was just doing to get a nice base layer on it of glitter, so that way if I don't get this solid, it's not just clay showing through. Even if I had done silver clay, it doesn't reflect like glitter does. So I definitely want to have everything covered in glitter, which is why I did the fine glitters first. And then this time I'll do the chunkier. On the gold piece that I did, I put the chunky glitters on and then I sprinkled the fine glitter over it. And so it covered up a lot of the chunkier ones. So I'm not going to do that with this one. Unless I did it first, like right now. And then with this wax pencil, these really help. These are for like nail art, these wax pencils. Again, I don't want it to go over the edge, but and I want them to lay as flat as possible. towel here. Which is why I'm not really, I mean, I probably could sprinkle some on to start. But again, you don't want it to overlap too much because you do want them all touching the Bacon Bond, you know. But if some don't stick, we'll deal with that later too. We'll brush it off and see. I almost might have too much Bacon Bond on this tip here, so let's spread this out a little bit more. I think it's tilting is why it's running. Hang on. Tilt it back that way. Okay. Let's keep putting this stuff on. Actually, let me do some of the Stampendous ones too. And then I'm hoping when this bakes up, it'll go clear enough that you can still see the under layer at least. But the main focus would be all these chunkier ones, you know. These feel like metal shards, the Stampendous one. They're they're thicker. They're not like glass, the glass glitter that's fine. It's really, this is a little thicker. So again, I don't want them to come off the edge like this. So I'm just kind of pushing them all around. Otherwise, when you resin it, you'll have issues. But we probably could grind it off with our Dremel in a bit, you know. It's not like if you have one accidentally hanging over, it'll be the end of the world. And I almost wish I put a little less Bacon Bond on it, which I'll do next time. Now I can individually kind of fill in where I need some. And also, before I get too far in, I'm going to pat all these down flat. Because if any are really stuck up, you're going to need to resin higher or put more layers of resin if they're too high. I think that will look cool, honestly. It's very mirrored with the silver. Let's put some of these twinklets on, which again are clear, but you get really good reflection from them. With like a black shirt or anything, it'd look cool. Yeah, see if I could, see, just by moving it, the twinklets don't have color, but they're still really pretty. Oh, nice. A nice big one in the middle there. That will look cool. Okay, now let's pick this up and bang it off to see what is actually stuck and what is not stuck. That's good, most of it is stuck. Now that I picked it up, I can actually see like there's a twinklet hanging off the edge, which I do not want anything really kind of going over the edge. But I could use a grinding bit on my Dremel if anything does hang off and is rough. We can also resin the sides. No, don't you think that will look cool? Especially once the liquid clay gets clear. And if you hold it up, you do want to see how that one's standing way up? You do want to pat those down, because otherwise you'd have to build your resin up that high. And you don't want to have to do that if possible. It's easier. You can keep it flatter. So just kind of hold it up from different angles and kind of peek at it. I got a little there, but I'll grind that off later. Not a big deal. That was the fine resin, not the big shards of glass. Or that was a fine glitter, not the... That's more like plasticky glitter, regular glitter. It'll be easier to trim off than these metal or glass pieces. I'm going to push that one over just a hair there. Looks pretty good. And then you really can just go through and put anywhere you specifically want it, since everything's stuck. I want a tiny little piece like that up here. Okay. I think I want a silver piece down here. If I can get one to stick. There might be a twinklet right there. Good. So just have fun. You know, glitter's fun. I mean, it's messy as all hell, but with different ones of these, you can really make it look as cool as you want. That's why I got a couple different, the Stampendous ones that I'm putting on right now, these littler shards, I just got in the mail last night. Some of my other glitters I've had forever, because glitter lasts for a long time, I feel like. But I wanted to get a bunch of different silver ones, because I thought it would be I just thought it would be cool to have all kinds of different textures and colors of silver, though I prefer the bright silver. I wear silver, like even my engagement ring. It's not silver, it's white gold. But I wish I would have done platinum instead, because there's no such thing in real life as white gold. Yellow gold is made into white gold, right? You don't mine white gold, you mine yellow gold. And it does yellow over time. I don't know if you can tell. And I've had them refinish it a couple of times, because my fiance's boss's wife works at a jeweler right around us. So I've had her brighten it up, and I wish I would have done platinum, because that's a naturally white metal. So if I got a wedding band, I'd probably do platinum. But they'd have to take all my stones out and everything to remake a platinum one. And this ring was, because I have like a size 4 finger, this ring was custom made, because they don't sell them that small. And if you take a sold one at a jewelry store and make it a small, really dinky little circle, they start out with like a size 7 or 8, and then they have to bend it. And the more they bend it, the more the risk you have for your stones popping out. So Josh had to order me one custom made, and it's still too big. So rather than risk bending it, I just had them weld in these little balls, which you don't really feel at all. So it's probably actually a 3.5. I almost would like to get one more piece of that tip there. And I could do another layer of this too if I decide, I want more glitter here and there. Totally could. That's a little bald right over here. So you can just put on some more bacon bond in spots. If like you want more in certain spots, and just add. Like if it won't stick and you really want a piece there. Okay, I think I'm happy with that one. So that's my silver one. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the blue. I'll probably speed this up so you guys don't have to watch me dinking around. Some of you really like to watch me do everything, and you fall asleep like I do. watching videos, which is why I don't like videos with music and why I prefer full-length videos, because I tend to watch them before bed. It's really calming and relaxing. But some of you just want to get to the point and they don't want to do, listen about anything else but get to the point. So that's why I've been kind of speeding things up, though I'm not really cutting parts out, or I'm trying not to, because I cannot assume people know what to do. It might be simple to some people. People have been doing things for a while, but it's not self-explanatory to everybody. And I cater more towards beginners. So if you don't like it, speed up the video. And if you don't like it, don't watch or fast forward. Okay, so with this, all I have is the sky blue ice resin and then the twinklet. So all I have are these two for this one. So again, I'm going to speed this up, but I'm going to do the Kato liquid clay and same exact thing. So now they are both done, and I'm going to bake them. I'm going to bake them at 275 for a full hour, mainly because, well, maybe because the Kato liquid clay is supposed to go to 300. So maybe because the clay is fully covered, I'll probably do, maybe I'll do 280 for a full hour, because the base clay, though it had 20 minutes and 20 minutes, I want a good, full, solid bake on this. And then we'll see what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. And then really, it's about resining. The other thing you might want to do right now, because it's hard to drill through these glass pieces, if you're going to drill, is just move some out of the way. I just thought about that because I remember that from last time. Just move some of these big glass chunks out of the way of where you drill your hole. Just a little bit. You can drill through them, it's just harder to. There we go, and then I'll do kind of push them around for this too. Probably drill right there. Going through the fine glitter, that's not a big deal. It's going through the thicker stuff that can get a little harder to do. And we'll see what it looks like when it clears up. I know people will tell you that if you want it to be clearer, you can, when it's done baking, hit the liquid clay with your heat gun. I have not needed to do that up to this point in my claying, because most of the time it bakes clear enough for me. So we'll see what it looks like when it comes out of the oven and is cooled. I'm gonna like these. I think these will look awesome. So I'm going to show you how we're going to resin this, and I have my resining mat, which I've showed you in how I resin polymer clay, the video, and I did an updated video, and I've showed it before at the end of many videos. So I have my mat on a piece of foam, and I'm going to resin it. Here's the blue one, But because it's so textured and slightly domed already in the middle, I'm going to use the thickest resin I possibly can. And hopefully that way, as I get it up around this uneven surface, it won't run off. So I'm going to use the thickest resin I have out of all, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 resins is the Lisa Pavelka Magic Gloss. Now it doesn't say how long to cure it for. So to be safe, I'm going to do at least 30 minutes for the first coat, and I'll probably do a second coat. Because this is jaggedy, one coat won't tend to cover it. Even if you go with a super thick layer, which you'd rather do 2 thinner layers than one thick layer. So I'm going to do 2 coats of this. I have my torch out as well to pop out any bubbles. I don't tend to use my torch when I'm doing the cabochons because the layer's so thin, but on pendants you do. So I'm going to just start by putting some in the middle. And this resin is about the consistency of honey, and I accidentally just dripped some off the side. So let me get that off before I even continue. Not my pool didn't go off the side, just when I was pulling that away, it dripped off the side. So as long as I rub that off, should be good. And we might trim, because this resin is so doming, it pulls away from the sides a lot. So we might be able to trim some of this white off as well later. So I got a little pool there in the center, and all I'm going to do is work on spreading it out with my silicone tool. I'm going to start from the center. And this piece is a little narrow for my mat, but it's so rough that it's not like dragging it over a smooth surface. It's super bumpy, but it's a cool texture. So I'm just trying to spread it out. You can use a toothpick as well. I like my silicone tool because I can just wipe it off. And at first I used toothpicks, and I was like, you know what, I'm throwing these away every single time. So then I started using this, and it seemed to actually work better. I use these silicone tools a lot, actually. So some of these pieces, because it's so jaggedy, some of it's higher, some of it's lower, so I'm worried that I'll get a run if I use a thinner resin. Now, it is midsummer right now, you know, it's like the 2nd or 3rd week in July, so it's thinner than it would be in the winter time, this resin, but it's still, I keep catching all the glitter that's standing up, but it's still the thickest resin I have. It is like warm honey right now, like honey would be if it's sitting on the counter in the summer. In the winter, it's like what honey would be like if it's sitting on the counter when it's cold in your house. It's just tough because you're catching all of the glitter, so it's moving it around a lot, but we'll make do. It is my least favorite resin. It's quite expensive, and it pulls away from the edges a lot to create a high dome. So if you really like that, use that. You're just going to have to play around with what you prefer. You know, I just have certain preferences, and everybody has their own preference. So no need to bash me because I said that. Everybody will give you a bunch of shit if you ever say that you don't like something, or you do like something. Like, well, I didn't get a good result with that, or I love that. It's like, okay, we all get, you know, we all live in different climates, different humidities, different temperatures. It's going to affect the way everything rolls. You know, some people prefer Kato clay because it's really stiff, but they live in a hot climate or a really moist climate, you know. It just depends on what you like, and we're all different, and we all like different things. Just trying to make sure it gets down in all the little grooves, but you can see the surface is still wavy. So I don't want to go too thick of a layer because then you have issues with full curing. So we're going to do one layer, and I'll cure it for about 30 minutes, and then we'll do another layer. Okay, now I'm going to hit it with my torch. And again, very, very low heat when you're hitting it with your torch. You're not blasting your flame. A very small flame, you know, and quick touch. Because this will also warm your resin up and make it a little bit more flowy. Okay, done. See? Done. Okay, I'm going to get that in the light, my tiny Pandora light, and I'll do it for about 30 minutes. The biggest thing with me and resin is you're better off safe than sorry. I feel like a lot of people text me and email me and stuff all the time saying, my thing's still sticky or my thing's still greasy. And I find that's mainly because you're not curing long enough or you're not using a correct light for what we're doing. You know, a little flashlight isn't really going to do it for most of our polymer clay resins. Most resins, they need to be in for a good 30 minutes. Most of our resins at the thickness we're doing and at the dome we're doing. I think people are taking it out too quick, touching it, and then putting it back in, and then they have a permanent smear on it. You need to let it go enough time, and then you won't tend to have as much issues. So buy a light that stays on. Don't buy a light that only has a 30 or 90 second stay on. That doesn't really work well for polymer clay. Works great for nails, but doesn't work well for what we're doing. So, I mean, I have a light for nails that has a 30, 60, 90 second and a 99 second stay on, but it doesn't work well for my polymer clay. It's actually higher than a 36 watt. So when it sets my polymer clay, it does weird rippling thing because it sets it too quick. So I really highly endorse a tiny Pandora light because she made it for us polymer clay artists, and it has a stay on button, and it's big enough to put quite a few pieces in there. You just slide it in and let it go, and it has multiple lights. So anyways, that's that. And a lot of the nail lights are actually UV or LED, not UV. So the UV light bulbs look like this. Ready? Those are UV light bulbs. This is a tiny Pandora light, and I have a little piece of fruit roll-up box. And back there, there's a stay-on button. It has multiple UV lights. My LED nail one. Yes, this is my basement, and I got dog toys all over. These are all my cords for all my things. This is my nail one. These are LED. See all those little? Those are LED, not UV. So they're different. And again, this one has a 10 second, 30 second, 60 second, and 99 second, which if I had to hit that for 30 minutes, that would be such a pain in the ass. Just spend the $30 or $40 and just get one. You know, get one. It will save you tons. So first coat is done. Now we're going to do the second coat, and you can see it's still wavy. So again, multiple thin coats I feel is better than one big thick coat, but again, personal choice. So we're going to do one more coat, again with the same resin. We'll see if just one more coat is quite enough, or if we're going to have to do another one after that. I'm hoping 2 will be plenty though. And then when they're done, I'll show you them. They look quite cool. I might actually just say screw it. It's rare that I don't use my mat, but it's sliding around too much with these longer shapes. I'll take the risk. If you hear something in the background, Jax is chewing on a bone. See, I'm chewing on a bone, Mom. And enjoying it. He's a chewer. And I have to buy, like, the last 2 bones. I think I spent 80 bucks on 2 bones. Well, they were elk antlers. Because my dogs, I mean, they're both 70-pound pit bulls. One's a purebred, one's a mix rescue. But they got jaws. I mean, they don't have lock jaws. People say pit bulls have lock jaws. They don't have lock jaws. They just have strong muscles. They don't, like, clamp down and can't open. I mean, that's like the stupidest thing to think. I'm sorry. No animal can clamp down and their jaw just lock and they can't control it. Like, they just are strong and they're loyal. So if you ask them to die for you, they will. Meaning fighting dogs, you ask a dog to die for you. When people fight dogs, and they will die for you. They are that loyal. They used to be nanny dogs, like the little rascals. Petey, he was a pit bull. They used to be Vermont, not Vermont's, but the United States dog, like back in the early 1900s. But because of the whole guy who, Mike Vick, they got a really bad rap. Starting to get better. I might have to do one more coat. That's why I tried to make sure none were sticking up really high. I'm going to put just a hair more on here if I can. We'll see how this coat does. I don't look like I have much bubbles, but just a little heat will help even it off. Let it self-level a little bit better. Just gently tilt it in the light. Do I got this tip right here? I can't tell. Yeah, I do. So this is after the second coat, and I think 2 coats was fine for me. The only thing is, a couple of them, I could still feel it on the edges, right? So you could call this as is. Like this one, I feel only like a little shard right there. You could call these done. I mean, that's not that big of a deal. You could call them done. But I think what I'm going to do is trim up the sides, and then maybe I'll put a coat of resin on the side, and that way I know which video. I know I have at least 1 or 2 other videos where I showed you how to do the sides, but when people ask, I know one of them was the alcohol ink video that I did the stamps on, and the multiple layers of stamping to make it look 3D. That one I showed you how to resin the sides, but I'm not sure. I know I'd done it in another. I just don't know which ones I showed it. So I'm going to trim out the sides. You could use whatever you want to trim out the sides. I have this Dremel sandpaper bit that I've bought. I have different grits. I know I've showed these before as well. I think this is the highest grit I could find in them. And I think it's like 600 or something if I could pull it off. I don't want to pull it off. If it comes off easy, I don't mind. But if it comes off hard. But I've been using it over and over. So it's actually a lot finer than what it is. Or what it started out to be. Yeah, no, it's coming off too hard. But I believe these are on my Amazon page. I don't use these to sand because it's too coarse. I think the finest it went up to was 400. So it's too coarse for sanding, but it works well for certain things. So I can use this. And you could also use like a carbide bit, you know, or a diamond, some type of diamond bit as well to trim. I mean, I have so many shaped bits. You know, diamonds look like this, but you can get them in different shapes, which I have so many shapes. These are just the ones I commonly use. So I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to trim these sides up, and then we'll resin them so you guys can just see how to resin the sides. So again, I'm going to use my Dremel. I always sand close to me. When you're recording, people don't realize when you're recording, if you see, my arms are like really extended from me. So when I'm working naturally, I bring this closer to me when I'm recording. So that's why I do it on camera. Or when I'm not recording, I put this closer to me. Literally, and if you, because we did a white base, how I normally trim, even when I'm just trimming the excess off, if you guys don't notice it, I tend to angle towards the back. So that way, it's at like a slope like this. So that way you don't really see any of the sides from the front. And I do this almost on every single pendant I do. These are unfinished ones, but I do it almost every single time, where when I sand it, you can't really see the sides from the front because I bevel them in. These are unfinished ones, but let me see if I can find one. I don't know if you can see, but it's sloped in, so I tend to tilt it so it's more like that. So when you look from the front, you don't see any side on it. As a, you know, again, like this, it's kind of, even though this one's warped, kind of sloped a little bit. So that's how I'm going to trim this, and that will make it so the white is not so visible. So again, I'm angling more towards the back like that. And like I said, you don't really see that the shape's messed up here a lot because of the metal cutter. And I wasn't quite worried about it because I knew I'd be trimming it. at the end probably, because this is very similar to the faux abalone that I did with the stone shards, and I found I did this at the end just to smooth it off. This one I'm going to go up a little bit up here to get one of these glass pieces way up high. If you did another coat of resin, or maybe just doing the sides, you won't feel it. You can also see this one kind of jets out a little bit up high. I would just trim that off. And we're going to do a side coat of resin, so that should help bulk the sides out and make it a little less noticeable. So you see how I'm angling backwards? So you see less of the white from the front. And you'll feel it when you touch your resin. Resin trims quite hard. It's quite firm. Firmer than polymer clay, at least, when you're grinding it. Now, I have a lot of practice using handheld rotary tools. In the dental field, if you ever have gotten a temporary crown or a denture or a partial or night guard, we have to grind these down a lot. So, when I was a dental assistant, now I'm a dental hygienist, but I was a dental assistant for about 12 years before I went to hygiene school. We use these a lot. They're different. They're way more expensive, the ones dentists use, but the handheld ones, not the drill. There's also lab ones that we use. You know, the drill obviously we use, even if you're not a dentist, but so that's why I'm fulcruming here. It gives you more stability. And the tips are always hard to make perfectly round. Not that you're going to be looking at it from the back. So that translucent only had a little bit of tiny white in it. I didn't even add any extra white like we did in that other cane, where I added a bunch of extra white to make sure it was white, in that pink stripe type cane. And this still baked really white. I mean, look how white that is. It was only a little bit of translucent. And only when I held it up to the light, it only had a little bit of translucency. So it doesn't take much. If you have a scrap translucent and colored clay, add a little more of your color to it and reuse it. So again, that's gotten pretty chalky looking, but when I'm done with this and ready to resin the sides, I'll clean this off with just a 70% alcohol. You don't want to use a 99 because it will dull your resin. Just a 70% to take off that inhibition layer, which is the uncured layer of resin, just like with gel nails and stuff. So if you use a 70%, but it's solid. If I touch this or push hard, I'm not going to get an indent with my fingers in it. So everything feels pretty smooth now, and I'm going to do that to the other, and then I'll show you how to resin the side. Okay, I got them trimmed up now, and I'm really not going to do anything to the backs. I think they're fine. I made a little glitter on this one, but whatever. Now I need to wipe it off with some 99 or 70% alcohol, just regular at the store alcohol, just to get this dust and stuff off. Now, normally if I was going to resin this, the sides, I would have done it first. I just didn't think about it until after. I thought I would have been able to get it, but it's still a little rough. So I'm going to do it now. This one does have a big inhibition layer. It's pretty sticky when it comes out. This resin in particular. I'm going to have to buff it back up. It's just one of those resins that some of them have a huge inhibition layer. And I'm wiping my sides too to get the dust off. think they look cool. I don't know, I think they'll be cool. Definitely get it cleaned up well. And then let me get my resin out. I'm going to use my normal 2 to 4 minute resin, even though I'll put it in for 30 minutes, but I don't need it to be super thick. So I'm going to use my normal QIAO, or my Decor ROM. And then get your little silicone or a toothpick out and whatever mat you're going to set it on. Now again, remember, if you were going to do this, you should have done it first, okay? Just throwing that out there. Because if you're not careful and you get a little bit of resin on your top, you're going to have to redo your top. Because you can't just redo one part. You have to redo the whole thing. So if there's one part that you don't like, I mean, on the sides it won't matter so much, but on the top, if there's a part you don't like, you're going to have to redo it. So when you're applying this, if you get it on the top, you're going to have to redo the whole top, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. So what I would do is take some of your resin and either pour it out into one of those little measuring cups, or I just usually pour a little on my mat. And I've had like 4 people ask recently, what's the best non-low odor resin? I think the Lisa Pavelka is very low odor, and this Decor ROM and this QIAO is very low odor. So is the RJ Crafts ones. But the Tiny Pandora one is the strongest smelling one I have that I've used. That one's got the heaviest smell. Let me move you so I don't go out of focus here. So all I'm doing is picking up a little bit on my thing. And then I'm brushing it on my sides here. And you don't need to do this. I'm just doing it just to show you. You really don't need to. Now, especially on something like this where it's solid clay, but on pieces that I've used alcohol ink, and I think alcohol ink is on the side, and I want to seal that in, or like you had mica on the side or something, you would definitely want to do this, and it's really easy to do. So far, I don't think I've gotten any on the top. Or pieces like this where you might have jaggedy edges of glitter sticking out. It may help seal off the edges. And this is a 2 to 4 minute curing resin, so I will bake it, or I will cure it for 30 minutes in my Tiny Pandora light, just to be safe. I would rather be safe than sorry, so I always go longer, because I feel like 2 to 4 minutes is not quite enough at all for a 2 to 4 minute resin. It's just not enough. I still feel like I get more tackiness, more imprints, that kind of stuff. So I'd rather do it a little bit more, so I do it about 30 minutes. If I have a 30-minute resin like the RJ Crafts one, I do 60 minutes, roughly, in my light. You know, it's not like I'm timing, but I definitely do way over. And the thicker of a coat, the longer you're going to want to go. That's why I don't think, you know, we're not just thinly brushing this on all the time. We're actually putting fairly thick coats. Not super thick, but we're putting fairly thick coats, which it's going to take the inside layers to get cured. I think the biggest problem is people reach in and they touch it. The top layer cures first, so you think you're good, but then it actually leaves a mark on the inside, like underneath. So you're actually not good. Okay, so the sides are now resined. And I'm going to set this upside down because I angled it back so they won't touch now because it's domed. I don't know if you can see. It's not touching. So I'm going to get that in my light. That way it doesn't slide around. And that one's going, and I'm going to do the other one, and I will be back. I don't know if I've ever told you guys the reason why I have a thing here on my light is because when it's really cold, your resin cannot set as fast, and because I'm in my basement, and like I said, it's pretty much concrete and everything, my sometimes in the winter it can take even longer. So I made a little door Also, so that I can be working on another piece without all this blue light shining over here on my work area and affecting curing of that while I'm working on it. So that helps to keep the UV light in. Okay, we can now get them finished up. I'm going to drill a hole. We'll do a jump ring and a bail. I just ordered these off of Amazon. I don't know their quality. They weren't very expensive, but I thought these are kind of cool looking, and I do like the round with the long for some reason. I have another kind that's a little round too. You guys know I use them a lot. So, and then just a 6mm should be fine. If not, I have to go up to a 7. We'll see. And so the sides are done. You can see they're shiny and glossy there, and not that you needed to do them, but just to show you how to do them. So we're going to use our pin drill or a hand drill. And again, we cleared a spot for this to go in, so we're going to try to go in that spot. Oop. I'm going to do it down. And then put a little nick in it so you can see if you like that spot. And now because we have a couple layers of resin, and it's really domed, it's going to be weird to go through, but I'm going to keep it down on my table because it's going to be easier for me. And the smallest bit I have is a little bent, so it's kind of funny watching it go through. Hang on, I'll show you in a minute. It's easier when you can put pressure. See, this bit's a little bent, so it comes out a little crooked. It's fine, it's on the center here, but it came out crooked there, so I'm going to try to push it over a little bit. See, my first hole came out over there, and I pushed it over. I just angled it a little differently, which is fine. It's on the back. And then we'll go to our next size. And if you are off a little center, you can push one way or the other to try to get it to center back up. But usually because you're starting with your smaller size, if you just push more, like I was a little off center there, if I just push more this way, as it gets bigger, it'll go more that way as we go up the size drill bits. And you can make as big or as little hole as you want, depending on what gauge your jump ring is. So. Go through both sides to open it up. That is totally off center, but oh well, I'm only wearing it. And I'm going to go up and make a slightly bigger hole. See how off center that is? Was not a good one, Katie. There is a fly down here, and I am going to kill it. Every now and then I get like one fly in our basement. It drives me insane. And I got my fly swatter right on my lap because I'm trying to kill it. So I'll do the same thing for the other one. This resin does get dirty pretty easy. Hopefully over time it won't, but anyways. And then I'll use... Where did my jump ring go? Did I get one out? I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. So I'm going to use my bent nose pliers, and again we twist. Sorry, everybody's coming downstairs. Okay, and you twist front to back when you open a jump ring up, like this. And then we'll see if a 6mm will fit. Sometimes if the pendant is too fat, it won't fit, but that actually does. You could use a pinch bail or whatever. Slide your thing on. Grab it. Twist it close. Sorry, Josh is down here watching a video. Just came down with the dogs. It was like 9:30 at night. Okay. Make sure it's even up and down. Yep. There we go. So I'll do the other one and then I'll hang them on a chain and show them to you guys. So here we go. They're done. They're both hung. And I think they're cool looking. Super glittery. God, it looks so much better in real life, honestly. I wish... I mean, you guys know that when you take pictures to post on the internet, they never look as good as they do in real life. Ever. Those will be pretty, especially from like a good distance, you know, when you're wearing like black or anything. This will pop really well. So, all in a day's work. Pretty simple, pretty easy. And now, done. Something you can make multiple colors of very easy. As long as you have the glitter, you know. And glitter lasts for a while. It's fairly inexpensive, so pretty simple there. Okay, I will talk to you guys next time.